Carter, District Director for Congressman Richard Hudson, who sends his regards as well today, represents the 8th Congressional District, so we've still got a little piece of Charlotte in the 8th District. And we actually, Fran Albritton, who's here today from Stanley County, Richard actually met with a group of your NAIFA cohorts up in Concord yesterday from Cabarrus and Stanley counties. So we were talking about a lot of these same issues. And what Bob started talking about, what a lot of you may know, is that this past year, Dave Camp, who's the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee for the House of Representatives, so the committee that deals mainly with taxes, came out with a draft proposal, called it a discussion draft for tax reform. So in the short term, the tax reform this Congress moving forward in the lame duck session isn't going to go anywhere. But what he was hoping to do, he's the outgoing chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, and Paul Ryan, who many in this room know, is going to take over as chairman for the Ways and Means Committee next Congress. So Chairman Camp wanted to put down some of his markers, again, as a discussion draft to move forward with the hope that we can actually take on tax reform in the next Congress. It's been something that's been talked about, frankly, for decades now, about doing tax reform, but we're hoping to start the discussion to actually move forward with it next Congress. So there's a series of questions on tax reform, so in the interest of time, I'll get into a couple of views Richard has on this in more detail as we move forward. But with the tax reform proposals, Richard's in agreement with Congressman Pittenger that we don't need to raise any of our corporate tax rates. Everybody in this room knows that we've got to be encouraging folks to save for the future. But the simple answer is we can't cut our way out of the mess we're in with a $17 trillion debt and stagnant growth. Like Bob said, even as they say the economy is recovering, it's only at a 2%, 2.3% growth every month. We've got to grow our economy out of this mess, and so the way we do that is through tax reform. And so I was talking to Sandy before we started the meeting. It's a little bit inside baseball, and I'll touch on it here in a couple of minutes, but one of the reasons why Dave Camp, some of these things that came out, like raising some of the corporate taxes, is because of the way that Congress, the Congressional Budget Office, scores these proposals. So one of the things we could do is we need to take into account when we have tax reform, what are the real world economic impacts of tax reform, so that you don't have to get where it's revenue neutral and come up with some of these out there ideas like raising taxes on S corps and that sort of thing. So there are some rules that Congress can change to hopefully take into account the full picture of what tax reform looks like, so we get a more realistic picture. We don't have to do some of these budget gimmicks to see how we can grow the economy out of this. So the short answer is no, Congressman Hudson does not support raising any corporate tax rates moving forward. But again, there's some things we can do moving forward with tax reform to hopefully get this economy growing again in the years to come.